Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, May 6th, and just as I was about to switch to the European account, Loki has challenged me for 80 gold, so we might as hop in here and play Loki and get some 80 gold, and then we'll jump over to the European account. No reason to not have that happen on the recording. I would say if people are watching my live stream and waiting for me to wrap up a recording and then they're going to send me a friend request, no, that's not going to ever happen. Like, I'm not going to spend the entire length of the game and not make content.
My blade burns with holy fire.
I will fight with honor.
So that, and that. Oh, here's a story I don't think I mentioned. That was the thing I forgot. Yeah. So it finally happened, and I am so much better for it finally happening. As I mentioned on rare occasion, I've been playing Clash Royale.
Hello, chap.
I have unlocked all the characters. I'm pretty high in the season. The season just ended, so I'm back down low at Legend 1. So, doing pretty good. There's still a lot of gold at the late game that you need to just upgrade, and there's still a lot of cards that I don't have enough to upgrade to level 13. But I was in this clan, and that's bearing the lead, and I'm no longer in that clan. I was in this clan and for a couple years, and at some point they just made me a co-leader. They made me and several other people. This was, for lack of any better accuracy, the original leader of the clan, the original founder of the clan. Somebody there, either a co-leader or somebody there, the original management of the clan, made me a co-leader. Fine, I didn't do anything for a year or two as I was the co-leader. Lots of people were made co-leaders and didn't do anything. We weren't asked to do anything or anything like that. Eventually, somebody was allowed to be made a co-leader who was a troll, and he set about trying to destroy the entire clan through trolling and stupidity. And he was a co-leader too, and a co-leader can't kick another co-leader. And it had already been 2 or 3 years in which the original captain, the original person in charge, had given up any real authority or done anything. Hadn't done anything. So there really was nobody who was taking charge and running the show. That's just how it had been for a long time. It was, for the most part, fine, because everybody was just doing their own thing. But when the troll stepped in, instead of having strong leadership happen, nothing happened. We were getting destroyed and ruined and trolled for about a month, and then finally I stepped up and I said, look, as kind of a bluff / non-bluff, I said, let's go. This clan is ridiculous at this point. Let's start a break-off clan, and I'll stay here for a week, and someone else will go be the leader of this break-off clan. And so this other person left, and about half the clan left to this break-off clan because it sounded like that was what I was really planning. Now, that was in part what I was planning. The second part of that plan was that if this troll left the main clan, I was going to just make sure that if he left, he'd no longer be a co-leader, so he would come back as just a standard member, and then I would just kick him out at that point and make sure he was gone forever. But instead what happened is he left to the other clan, and all the other trolls that were kind of working with him, so I think it was probably about 5 troll people that had all gone on board, probably people who knew each other. And so this troll left and to the new clan, and I was like, well, fine, he fell for that trick, and so now he's out of the main clan. We can start rebuilding. Unfortunately, Clash Royale is such an old game that the clan really never rebuilt from that. It had slowly been dying ever since that point, and only about 25 out of the 50 max people in the clan were ever active, and as time just went on and people got burned out, the higher level players were leaving and nobody new was joining. So after getting rid of the troll, I realized I've got to step up. I've just got to basically own this clan and be the boss, even though technically I was never the boss when they really should have just made me the leader. But I never really requested it. I thought, you know what, I'll just run the show through the shadows as a co-leader instead of being the straight up leader, which maybe that was in part my mistake, and I should have asked for leadership and stepped up at a certain point. Because for the last year, I've definitely been running that clan. And then as I was running the clan, it became obvious, like, if you left the requirements to join very high, nobody would join. I'd leave it for a week, nobody would join at the high settings. So then I would back it down, and I'd be like, okay, what is the level where we'll get new players who will actually join a new clan? And the level's pretty low. So I set the level really low to let in these new people. As part of running the clan, there was another player who, I don't know if he was a troll or just a jerk in general, and didn't look at the chat or didn't follow instructions, and he was asking for one of the newest cards. I think it was wizards. Let's just say it was wizards. He was asking for wizards in every request, which, okay, fair enough. And then he was asking for trades in every request, and it just got to the point where for a month straight it was sucking all of the wizards out of everybody's collections. So because other people were now low on wizards because they were donating wizards to this one guy, I eventually, maybe incorrectly, said, alright, we're just going to have a month moratorium on requesting wizards. We're just going to have a wizards ban. Send out a clan-wide message like, there's a wizards ban, you can't request wizards, you can't trade wizards. And that revealed something about where the clan's morale and ability to follow instructions and act together as a single group was at, because I would say about 12 people immediately threw a fit like a baby and said, what? I can't do whatever I want to do because I'm in this clan that has rules? And I'm like, yeah. So they at that point they were calling me a tyrant and saying I'm on this power trip, which is something that got repeated quite a lot because people would violate the wizards ban. And you really can't warn people too much. I tried my best to put in the chats, like, you can't trade wizards, but people would still violate it. The main person that caused the drought of wizards in the first place violated it, and I kicked him. Perhaps I should have just kicked him at the first, but then I I'm sure people have said I was just being a tyrant for randomly kicking this person. And I did handle that situation differently in later instances. But yeah, when Clash Royale introduced clan emotes, people started spamming those, so they had to say, look, please don't spam. People seem to constantly not understand that the clan chat is something for the clan to use when you're talking to all the clan and not your own personal private chat box. And several instances where I've said, look, you guys need to not post so much. I have to look at the clan chat and read all of it, and I can only go up to the last 100 posts. And if you guys are just good gaming each other, thanks. Usually it was even stupid things like that. When you have like 8 different pointless short posts, I would usually warn them, but then they would ignore me. Very often it became a case of, as the co-leader, I would warn people, I would tell them not to do something, and then they would get hostile and ignore me and do it anyways. Probably because the clan, more and more as it was introducing newer players, was introducing, quite frankly, little kids that don't want to follow instructions and don't want to listen to anybody. So yeah, it just eventually got really bad, and we were getting to the point where we were struggling to even have 10 people, which is the minimum needed to play the clan wars. And so people weren't participating in the clan wars. People aren't logging in and requesting cards. People aren't donating cards. I'm kicking out people for inactivity on a weekly basis, and people just like donating exactly 0 cards in a 7-day period. Probably some of this has to do with the end of school and summer approaching. But it was getting really bad, frankly, and I probably, now that I was forced to leave that clan, realized I should have left that clan a long time ago. I should have jumped ship, and that's something that's always hard to see, because you want to be loyal, you want to stay with your clan as much as possible. But yeah, I should have jumped ship a long time ago. What finally happened at the end is the old management gave up leadership, not to me, but to their friend, who then had been running it. I would say probably had been technically the leader of the clan for I would say maybe a year at most, and they're exactly like the old leader. They literally weren't saying anything, they weren't making any rules, they weren't doing anything. The one thing that he did was he raised the requirements to join the clan up to the very high level. So this long story is about to be finished. So he raised it back up to, like, I think 4,000 trophies, which means nobody would be able to ever join the clan at that rate. Nobody's going to be really trying to do that. We're moving over to the European account, and I said, all right, I've done this experiment at least 3 separate times, where I've set it high and left it for a week, and then exactly 0 people have joined new in an entire week, and then I've set it back down to the low, and then I can fill the clan in less than 3 hours of new players. And yes, one of the things I had to establish to deal with people who were children and didn't want to follow instructions. I guess we're going to be playing Rogue. Was I implemented a rule that maybe it was a good rule, maybe it was a bad rule. I'm left to basically run the clan by myself, so I was getting zero support or any feedback other than just butthurt people who would say something nasty and then leave the clan, or say something nasty and then have violated or been so rude that I had to kick them. But most of the time it was people that would say something nasty, and I would have been like, fine, if you want to say that nasty thing and stay in the clan. But they don't, because they don't care about it, and they didn't want to support it. I was accused of not caring about the members because I was kicking out people who weren't following the very first rule of joining the clan. But if anything, I was trying to establish a good, active clan. So the rule we established, or I established, there was no we, was you had to type hi in the chat. That way we know you read the chat when you first joined, which, if you're going to be a good clan member, you should be able, you should read the chat, look around, see if it's your kind of group in the first place. After I was eventually kicked out of the clan by the leader because he didn't like that I turned the requirements back down, I assume, and now this clan is almost certainly going to be dead in a month. Because he's going to be too lazy to run it himself. It was basically, the clan was dead months ago, frankly. I guess it would have just been a little disloyal as the person running it to leave. And if I was the actual runner of the place and I left, I would have to then have suggested somebody else be the leader or disband the clan completely, which frankly it probably should just be disbanded. So yeah, I established this rule that you have to type hi, and you know what, I would say 2/3, maybe even 3/4 of everybody who joins the clan would not type hi. And I wrote it like you had to type exactly the word hi. That way, if somebody wants to be cute and show that they're going to be a bit of a troll and aggressive about it, and they're going to just say hey or hello or something else, well, I said type the exact word hi. It's like quote hi end quote. So if they didn't type that, it didn't matter to me if they said hi, thanks for letting me join or anything. As long as it had hi in the name, in the word, I would let them stay in the clan. And then as long as they donated at least one card a week, they were in and they were following the rules. I would push and ask people to do more and participate in the clan war. A lot of the new players were at such low levels that they couldn't participate in the clan wars anyways. But that was the only requirement, and people would often get butthurt about that, and it was ridiculous. It's like, this is all you have to do is say hi in the chat, so we know that you read the chat. And the reason I want people to read the chat is in case I need to say something like, hey, there's a Wizards ban, and so don't buy Wizards. For the most part, I only had to tell people, hey, if this new card is coming out, let's have a week moratorium on requesting this card. Otherwise, everybody in the clan is going to request this new card. Nobody's going to have the new card, so donations are going to plummet to zero because everybody's requesting the wrong thing. And just keep it nice and varied and pick something different. And that was another suggestion / rule that had to be made. And then just mostly it's kicking spammers out, which Clash Royale seems to have gotten a little bit better about the spammers. but still has a lot of work to do, I'm sure. So yeah, there's a lot of trials and tribulations on being forced to be the leader of a Clash Royale clan because everybody else is too lazy. I was doing a lot of work on it, certainly logging in, at least on the daily process, personally having to start the clan wars, and just enforce all the rules, make up all the rules, just doing all the work, which frankly, for a game, it should have been at least 3 or 4 people doing different things. People would ask to be co-leaders, and I'd say, alright, well, what are you going to do for the clan? Are you going to kick out spammers? Prove to me that you're actually going to take on this burden of being a co-leader, because it's not just a reward for playing the game. I was particularly running it so we didn't have the problem of the wrong person being made a co-leader and kicking out half of the clan like the troll did. And yeah, so yeah, the worthless leader that had never done anything got butthurt because after a week of letting him try his experiment, which I'd done several times before, and it once again proving objectively that at a high ratio new players can't join, and our clan in particular being specifically dying and losing members is a big problem. He kicked me out. I immediately went to the find a new clan recommendation engine, which seems like it's probably significantly improved in Clash Royale. I found a brand new clan very quickly. I went in there, I saw there was a lot of cussing and it didn't look like it was my clan kind of group. I left that clan. I went and I found a third clan, joined it, perfectly fine clan. And I was like, alright, this is great. Now I can be in this clan that is 3 or 4 times higher in activity, in rank, in just where people are. Like I was, as far as trophy count and how successful you are in rank play in Clash Royale, I was number 3 or 4 in the old clan. Now I'm way down to rank like 30. So there's a ton of very high level players in this clan, which makes it way better in the war days with way more rewards. I've been missing out on so many rewards, and on top of that, I don't have to deal with any of the leadership roles because there's a person already in that role. He's running basically the same rules, it seems. I don't have to question or ask or be concerned about any of the leadership, and then quite frankly, if I do have any concern for the leadership or anything, I'm probably just gonna leave the clan and join another one. So this huge burden has been lifted from me, and I should have quit a long time ago. Now, does this mean I'm going to quit Clash Royale? No, I'm too invested in it. Not financially, it's still been a 100% free-to-play experience, but now I can just play it and, and just enjoy it without having this extra amount of work. Ironically, I believe one of the people in the clan that I finally ended up in may have been one of the people that I kicked out for not typing hi. Now, this clan doesn't do the hi thing, but it seems like they've figured out a way to not end up with a bunch of children who won't follow instructions. It took me years to realize that was even an issue, and that more than half of the clan was really just using it for what they could get and would not listen to a single bit of instruction from anybody. And for Clash Royale, you usually don't have to give any instructions. It's just like play the game or get kicked out for being inactive. That's the main focus. The only time you have to give other instructions is if they're spamming or cussing or something like that. And as the rules grew in the old clan, people complained about, like, oh, this clan has too many rules. There's a whole bunch of don'ts, but not a lot of do's. And I'm like,
How much is this worth to you?
yeah, you want to spam the clan chat, and you want to put a bunch of emotes, and I told you you can't do that. So if you don't like it, leave. A lot of people didn't like it, and a lot of people did leave, and I don't think that they're going to be any happier in any other clan, because the point of a clan is to work together. There's a lot of people that are going to be good at Clash Royale, but terrible as clan members because they're simply not good at working together.
Hey, lights out.
So yeah, the irony is one of the people I think was a person that I kicked out because they didn't type hi, and then they kind of quietly left it after a day. The new clan I'm in. But yeah, I'm sure that there was hundreds, if not thousands, of people that were kicked out of the clan just because they didn't read the clan message. They didn't scroll up one post and read the post above them. They didn't look at the clan description. Well, I don't think it actually was in the clan description. And so that's probably close to the end of the saga of that. I'll be a creeper and look at the look up the old clan and see how many members it has. It has like 30 members right now. I wouldn't be surprised if in a week it's down to 25. The spin-off clan that the troll went to, and well, the reason why I didn't ever go to the spin-off clan was because the troll went to it, and then they made the troll a co-leader at the new spin-off clan, and I'm like, man, I thought you were getting what I was saying in code, but apparently they weren't. So yeah, they weren't getting the coded message that, hey, this very specific person is the person we want out. If he joins the next clan, don't make him a co-leader. And apparently he went and made him a co-leader, and I don't know why he did that, but it worked to my advantage either way. But the spin-off clan is doing way better. It's not doing good, but it is doing way better than the original clan. And you know, it probably has been 5 years since I'd been in the clan, so things have just run their time. And if my old clan was gonna run things different, if the new leader was gonna step up and run things and be in charge, and he was gonna establish rules, fine. That would have been fine at any point. He could have had a conversation with me and said, let's not do this, let's not do that. He was certainly not willing to take control, and now he's going to have to take control, or there will be no control. And I imagine that's what it's really just going to boil down to, is anarchy. So yeah, that's the long story, and it's kind of good we had that long story. I figured when the new leader took control, there was a good chance this was going to happen, that we were going to have some form of conflict, And with this being a game, the form of conflict was almost certainly going to begin and end at him kicking me out, because that's really all you can do. Is you can either talk to a person or you can kick them out immediately, and he chose to kick me out immediately. When I would have been perfectly happy to have a conversation with him.
Here we go.
I guess trying to learn anything from this process, because there's really not a lot to learn as far as what I can see at the moment, is I probably am going to be very flippant about sticking with my current clan. If I see too many problems, I'll just leave it and join another one. That's kind of it. I'm going to work rather hard to not be put in charge again. Or forced to be in a position of being in charge. I'd like to see other people do that. It would be ideal to see at least one leader and 2 co-leaders taking charge on different things. There could easily be one co-leader that's just in charge of spam, one co-leader that's in charge of the war days, and one leader in charge of inactivity as far as donations. But also, I'm gonna just not offer my 2 cents at all. I have no reason to be the new guy in a clan and say, hey, here's my suggestion, you should do this, you should do that. I saw somebody ask to be made get promoted in my
Let me think.
experience. When people asked to be promoted, I would look at them and see that they had barely joined a week earlier. They had not done anything to really justify it. We hadn't established any kind of rule or metric to say people deserve to be at certain levels. So very often we had a rule that said no begging, a rule that said no begging, and I'd say don't ask to be promoted, that's considered begging, and they often would say that's not begging, and or F you or something like that, and they should know I'm a co-leader and they're just being hostile to me, and then I would just kick them out for that. And yes, that did mean very few people actually got promoted, and that was perfectly fine, because promotions basically mean nothing until you are a co-leader or leader. There's no difference really between being a member and an elder. Sometimes I would promote people up to an elder just to see if they would actually help with the spam, or if somebody would reinforce the rules or do anything to support the clan and say something positive in the chat. I would sometimes promote them for their helpful deeds, but more often than not, nobody said anything in the chat, which is perfectly fine, or the only people saying things in the chat were the spammers, which that's basically what it was for. So yeah, this guy has to be promoted, and he was promoted. I don't have really a great way to know if he deserved it or if that's just the way they do things. But that is certainly dangerous, because then you're going to have 50 people say, hey, why was he promoted and not me? Or can I be promoted even higher? Or he shouldn't be promoted. There's just a lot of opinions there. You kind of need to justify it, but they don't have to justify it to me. They just need to justify it to the entire clan. So there might be problems that reveal themselves, but I'm trying to establish a honeymoon phase of sorts where where I just keep my mouth shut and see how things go.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Here we go.
But that's enough talking about Clash Royale. Let's cover the video game news now. We've got a game on Steam here called Infinite Children. That's obviously a low effort, weird asset flip game. It's just random weirdness all throughout. It's free, so I guess the price is right. English only as the language. I couldn't tell you for a second what this is as far as what kind of game it is. It kind of looks like it might be a VR game, but it really isn't. So yeah, nothing really interesting there.
My power.
I don't have a lot of news, so going on that long story is probably going to be helpful. But I'm also kind of close to being done with the European daily quest, which is helpful too.
I must move quickly.
Let's see, do this,
Who goes there?
do this, do this.
Time's up.
this.
Let's do this.
Here we go.
Job's done.
TechRaptor has an article here. The original Devil May Cry is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Okay, cool. I don't know. There's some weird timing certainly with that though, because you play the original Devil May Cry on the Switch, and you play the most recent Devil May Cry on the Switch. And I don't know if Devil May Cry 2, 3, or 4 is on the Switch, because I think the most recent one is 5. And I doubt DMC is on the Switch. So you can have a very backward and weird experience there. But I think that's kind of intentional too, because the most recent Devil May Cry game I think is probably a little bit friendlier and easier to play than the original game is, or the second game in the series is. I imagine DMC, being its own standalone attempt at a reboot, also is probably a little bit easier. And when you think about the Joy-Cons in particular in playing a Devil May Cry game, they are ill suited for the task, really. Because DMC is all about pressing buttons like crazy and having a lot of buttons to press. Meanwhile, Platinum Games, which made Bayonetta, which is basically just a Devil May Cry game, and I suspect some of the original creators of Devil May Cry did go on to make Bayonetta. They're now working on their own IP, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is a third series from a Bayonetta, Devil May Cry style action combo fighting games. So that very well might be the new hotness. And if that's the case, there's this possibility of
this guy's toast.
There being little. Let's see.
Master will get you.
Job's done.
Kill that.
Yeah. We might see, kind of in the same way that we have Metroidvanias now, we might see in the next decade or two a Devil May Cry style game, although it would have to be shortened in some way to I don't know how you shorten Devil May Cry Bayonetta shorter than into something shorter than action combo fighting game, or you could just call it action fighting game. You might even just call it an action game. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Air Battlefield, which doesn't look like it has much in the terms of visual graphics, and it's having a very dark background, foggy area, which is probably accurate to what you would actually see in a war time, but this is not really what you would want to see in a game. And there's bullets flying all over the place. Yeah. I don't see visually playing this for more than 5 minutes and then before you're just gonna feel like you're looking at a wall of gray. $4.89 discounted, a lot of languages, 10 achievements. Yeah, it seems just ugly and simplistic as a game. Let's see. Over here.
Shall we hunt?
There we go. Let's see. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Hacker game tech support error unknown gets an endless and a Zen modes. I've never heard of this game, error unknown. But if it's a hacker game where you're doing tech support, even if you're doing just tech support to social engineer people and get their passwords, that sounds like doing a job, and particularly doing one of the worst jobs that is, I suspect you could have.
Let me think.
So, yeah, I don't think this would be a game I'd want to play. It's on Steam. Let's see what the Steam reviews are on this. Tech support error unknown. You can see it's mixed right now.
Move quickly.
Hacking simulator games have a tendency to get too much in the weeds and not be fun games at the beginning part of it. And this is probably the exact problem with this game too. Let's see. I believe this game to be unfinished. Prepare for a click first. Rest your arm and get that digit finger ready for the strain. Click fest. Oh, it's not click first, it's the click fest. A lot of clicking apparently.
Here we go.
Kind of inherently, hacking is a minigame that should be like hacking minigames should be games that are minigames in bigger games. They shouldn't be a standalone project or game. Programming minigames, programming games make sense, but just hacking itself, the idea or a penetration testing or security testing of software as a game doesn't make a lot of sense, quite frankly. Like, it'd be better to, I think, get into actual penetration and security testing, and because that's so much a game in itself anyways. I'm not saying you should actually hack real people, but if you're following the people who are doing a bunch of interesting things, you'll eventually learn enough to be able to do some interesting things on your home computer and your home software that won't affect anybody else and get you into trouble.
Here we go.
Job done.
But personally, I think also programming opens the mind up a lot more than hacking. Hacking is a very specific goal. You're trying to do very specific things, where programming is, here's the tools to make anything. You want to make a game, you can make a game. You want to make accounting software, you can make accounting software. So yeah, I'm much more about pro programming games than hacking games. Although there are a couple of sort of fun hacking minigames. They probably shouldn't be very realistic at that point, though. Either it should be you're hacking something in a cyberpunk future where it's just pressing a few buttons and that's it. Interesting. Apparently, I clicked through something without even saying it. I think we're good enough here to just jump over to the Asian account. So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, we're not gonna have 2 recordings today. I could stop recording right now, quite frankly, and I would barely have anything as far as games or news. And we can just kind of burn through this. So we've got a game here called Legal Dungeon, which looks uninteresting as far as whatever it is. It seems like it's probably a prison simulator game. The creators of Prison Architect, by the way, finally sold all control and rights to a different company. Legal Dungeon is $5.99. It feels like this is a Chinese game, but I can't really guarantee or confirm that. But there's just a lot of text here. Organizing police investigation documents. Player must review and provide an investigation vertical on the reports, ranging from petty thefts to murder. Yeah, that sounds like doing a job. Maybe a slightly interesting job. But I imagine it probably isn't that interesting either. Alright, so I'm just gonna play Paladin. Play 1 Paladin victory, and that should get close to everything done. We'll play ranked. Let's see. There's actually a job listing around where I am for working as the records department of local police, and I'm like, yeah, I can probably do that, and it wouldn't be too hard. But what always gets me about it is I don't think I'd want to deal with police people. I had a coworker who worked at a police station, and she was like, yeah, some of the police were good to work with as far as co-workers, but others were just total jerks. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of get that feeling. That in the same way, I really wouldn't want to work with military people. There's a little bit too much testosterone floating around for that.
Wanna blow something up?
Let's see. Do this. And do this.
The light protects me.
And do this. Next we have a game on Steam called Danger Crew, which looks like it's a RPG of some sort. It doesn't look like it's RPG Maker, actually. Single player RPG in a world obsessed with programming, hack battles. Alright. So it's a bunch of nerds fighting each other. While this story might be slightly interesting, the way it is being presented visually is pretty bad. Danger Crew is $8.99 discounted, and English is its only language. I don't see anything there of interest.
Follow the rules.
I fight.
I would say the thing about
Must cleanse the sun well.
Digimon that they embrace pretty nicely better than Pokemon does, because Pokemon has like teaching machines and some cool technology that is slightly hinted at, things that would have been fascinating to children when Pokemon and Digimon first came out. They really didn't focus on them too much, and they really didn't do anything with the teaching machines or the Pokedex or the devices that heal Pokemon in the hospitals. It just kind of gets ignored and not mentioned, whereas Digimon went a little bit more heavy in that, and they're digital monsters. You're inside this game. It's a very early isekai game is the genre that they call it now, where you're in another world. And there was a whole tie-in of toys and ideas in Digimon where you were getting Digimon cards, at least the Japanese kids were, that they were scanning into Digimon toys to make certain digital monsters appear. And so there was definitely a whole level of hacking and coding and programming that was implied in Digimon that is not the case in Pokemon, because Pokemon in the Pokemon world are real and not based out of a digital environment. That being said, obviously Digimon did not succeed anywhere as well as Pokemon did, and maybe that just had to do with who was behind the funding and the promotion of it more than anything else. But I think also Pokemon over the years has been able to do a lot more, because they're not ham-fisted around the idea that all the monsters are digital in the first place. I also think Pokemon, in particular in the cartoon, bent over backwards to be family friendly in every country possible, whereas Digimon was a little bit more Japanese in its approach of things, where they were doing Digimon was doing the Sailor Moon style, the clothes disappear and transform into new clothes transformations when there's no transformation scenes whatsoever for Pokemon, really.
The light protects me.
Reporting for duty.
Let's see.
To battle.
This.
To battle.
This.
Show me.
This. Next we have a game on Steam, St. Hazel's Hospital. This almost looks like a funny joke, but it also looks like it is a low effort troll game. It's $5.94, and I've basically rejected everything up until this point. So I think I'll be a little bit generous and see if maybe this is more of a joke game. It doesn't really strike me as that, but if people can convince me that there's something here. The developer hasn't developed anything else, and let's see, publisher has published one other game that has no reviews apparently. I'll give this a follow and give it a chance, but that is mostly out of generosity and not an actual belief that this will be, that it would be a good quality product. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. PlayStation State of Play is coming on May 9th with the Medieval Remake Showcase. So this, I believe, would be the PlayStation State of Play announcement right before E3. So they've already kind of announced the statistics for the PlayStation 5. So I wouldn't be surprised if anything new gets said there. Maybe we'll just get reiterants of what has been said before, and then this will all be about games. Now, of course, there's a problem with games on PlayStation right now because there's fewer and fewer people that want to put their games on the PlayStation, in particular Japanese developers. A second instance has now occurred where Sony has censored the cover art of PlayStation games. There was one instance where they zoomed in the cover art that cut out a horse and, more importantly, the legs below a skirt of anime girl. So they just zoomed in to not show her legs, and now there has been a second instance where they've zoomed in to not show the legs of an anime girl. So I mean, this is not like they're covering up butt cracks in one scene in the middle of the game, which is slightly understandable. This is straight up, we don't want to show thighs, which, and I don't know how this isn't taking an extremely ultra conservative approach. Like, are they trying to sell the Western releases for the United States in Middle Eastern countries or something? I don't know, because that's about the only point where that would make sense, and even then it wouldn't make sense because these anime Japanese games probably don't sell too well in Middle Eastern countries anyways, and still wouldn't be found acceptable because showing a face in general might not be acceptable in half of the Middle Eastern countries, the female. So unfortunately, that's the state of PlayStation. Is I can't mention PlayStation without saying they've embraced a huge SJW censorship policy. The Japanese developers who made most of the exclusives and games that came for the PlayStation don't want to do business with them as much anymore. And even the state of play, a medieval remake, okay, it's an old game, but we are either on phase 2 or 3 of releasing old games. Like, we're getting close to scraping the bottom of the barrel. We've already had the Crash Bandicoot remakes. We've already had all the remakes that we were likely to ever get for old games that really mattered, and now we're getting remakes for things that, quite frankly, people don't even remember. Let's see. Let's do that.
Job's done.
Let's see. I really wouldn't be surprised if there's not a lot of other game announcements. And this article goes on to say that they've asked fans not to expect any updates on the next generation plan. So they're just going to wait until Microsoft says its piece, and whatever Microsoft shows at E3 will be then their rebuttal that they can make at any point. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Sony releases a press statement or an interview the day after Microsoft's announcements, and just tries to steal all of the oxygen out of the room and all the excitement and the hype. So yeah, seems like they're gonna go pretty low in comparison to what the previous years have been announced at this state of play. They've announced No Man's Sky VR, Ready Set Heroes, Observation, Five Nights at Freddy's VR, Help Wanted, Concrete Giant PSVR mode, Blood and Truth, Crash Team Racing, Nitro Refueled, Mortal Kombat, and other PlayStation VR. That was all announced at the last State of Play on March 25th. So, yeah. I'm really not expecting a lot of announcements. And even if there was a lot of announcements, if they had 20 games that were all console exclusives, I'm still not sure that the audience that they would get or try to have would be the audience that is what people want, or the people that buy games would be the audience. I think gamers in general, particularly Japanese gamers, are going to just move away from the PlayStation. I could be wrong about it though. And certainly what could happen is at E3, Microsoft just screws it up terribly and makes a horrible announcement, and it kills all excitement for the next place, the Xbox 2 or whatever it's going to be called. And then maybe people would swing back to the PlayStation at that point. Although I wouldn't be surprised if more people swing to PC or the Switch. With the prices of consoles increasing, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a lot more of splintering off in fashions different from before, where people that can afford PC go to PC and people that can't get regulated down to just Switch. And certainly that's what I would do too, is if I had one other console that I needed to play games on top of my PC, it would be the Switch. I would buy a Switch way more than I would buy a PS5 or a PS4 or Xbox One X or whatever. Next we have a game on Steam called Welcome to Nightmares. This is a Dark Screenshot Syndrome game also. Looks like an RPG Maker game with some puzzle elements and horror elements added. It's $5.99, English and Russian. Nothing there to interest me. So we need to kind of hurry up a little bit at this point. I may play some extra games or switch back to the Americas account. Next we have a game on Steam called Old Edge, which is a low effort platformer. I will say the graphics here look a little bit better in the sprites, but the background is very poorly thought out, and it doesn't look like there's anything else in this game that would be of any interest. It's 59 cents discounted. I would really feel sorry for somebody if they went out on a quest to own all the 60 cents low effort games on Steam. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Go Venture Typing, which is stealing video clips of people typing. They had Kermit the Frog typing here. So immediately you see copyright infringement in your video. I can't have any confidence that this game is going to stay on Steam, thus I can't have any confidence that it's going to be supported. Let's see, let's jump back here. Kermit the Frog for real. So this is $8.09, and even if it was a good game, like, no, I can't buy this. It's gonna get taken off pretty quickly, and then it's probably a nothing experience in the first place.
Incoming.
Show me.
Turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Deercraft, which looks like it is just a Minecraft clone. Looks like it's a Chinese Minecraft clone too, so the quality's probably even worse than average. It's 25% off for $14.99 with a third-party EULA. It is Chinese. Yep. There's no quality that you would see for this. This is a rip-off product, I can pretty much guarantee you. Let's see. Next we have another game called Dungeon Scavenger, which looks suspiciously like the typing game. Well, or even if it isn't a typing game, it looks pretty terrible. Early access, $3.99. Let's see. Yep. That's not interesting either. This.
Reporting for duty.
That. Monitoring. Gamasutra has this video blog, Type Dreams, Death Punch Nightmares. It's a video, and I have never heard of a game called Type Dreams or Death Punch. But yeah, this seems like this might be a collection of a bunch of articles, so it's just Gamasutra promoting a whole bunch of articles that they probably put out this week. One of which was Origin of the Term Gamer, which I'm sure is a pretty inaccurate opinion piece. Alright, one more Paladin victory. And that's all we kind of need. TechRaptor has an article, Dragon Pinball brings fiery flipper fun to Nintendo Switch on May 10th. I don't know if you really would want to play pinball on a Switch, but if it was portable, maybe it would make a little bit of sense. I don't think the Switch is so weak that it couldn't do a decent game of pinball if it's programmed right. A lot of pinball is just about, is it programmed right? Does it feel good? I haven't gotten around to covering a lot of the pinball tables that I bought because I basically bought all of the expansions. So I could do spotlights of a pinball table probably for a month straight. Just one individual pinball table. But I would. Yeah, I just haven't gotten around to it. I probably will do that eventually. Next, we have a game on Steam called Invisible Fist, which seems like a fighting game, but seems like it's a card-based fighting game based around emotions. Seems too much like a joke in a troll game than a real game, but it looks polished, oddly. Let's see, $13.49. Yeah, this feels too much like a troll game though, so I'm gonna say no to it. Yeah.
Let's move quickly.
Let's play
Got
this.
something to hide?
Here's a follow-up on the story we talked about earlier for Gamasutra. Riot agrees to scrap mandatory arbitration, but only for new employees. The story was being misreported by me and others, it seems, as they had agreed to scrap
Got something to hide?
scrap arbitration agreements in general, and
Show me.
of course nobody's going to come back and admit that that they were reporting incorrect news, or that they made a mistake, so now it just gets reported as a news story instead of mentioning, oh yeah, a couple days earlier we got it wrong. I will mention that I was basing my information on other news sources and they got it wrong, therefore I got it wrong. I'm not a good enough reporter or a real reporter at all, so because I have no sources other than other news sources, and as such, if what I deem a slightly credible journalist tells me something and it turns out to be untrue, I will take it for truth until I hear otherwise. It's like I barely can find enough energy and time to do what I do, which is make YouTube videos, to run around and contact sources and actually be a journalist. Next we have a game on Steam called Divine Diva, and this looks like this is a 100% text-based game. I have no interest in ever playing a text-based game. It doesn't look as bad as some of the other ones, but it still looks pretty bad. It's discounted to $1.59 and it's English and French. Yeah. So, yep, that's nothing to be interested in.
Reporting for duty.
Next we have a game on Steam called VR Healthcare Running Exercise, VR Walking and Running Along Beautiful Sea Beach in Sakura Forests. So clearly this is a low effort asset flip VR infinite runner game, which I don't even know if that actually would be healthy at all to do an infinite running game in VR. I feel like you'd fall down, I feel like you'd overexhaust yourself. Seems like it's a real bad idea. They want $24.99 with no discount. See what languages it is. English and Chinese. Not really surprising when you see this. This is clearly a translation to English and not a name that you would give an actual product. So yeah, no interest in that. And I would point out to be extremely cautious on anything that promises any kind of healthcare tied to video games or VR. These statements not evaluated by the FDA or any other agency,
The light protects
I'm sure.
Reporting for duty.
GameIndustry.biz has an article, and Nico Partners says China online PC gaming revenue saw a slight decline in 2018. Domestic revenue dropped by approximately $300 million from 2017 in the face of the game license freeze, which it's hard to say since we saw an article claiming from Nico Partners, I believe, that China was on the verge of becoming the biggest PC gaming market. It's hard to believe that when their own reports are telling you that the Chinese gaming freeze caused trouble in the industry, caused a decline in sales, and it proves that there is unpredictability in the Chinese market because of their government and their censorship policies. The United States, in comparison, would never successfully be able to censor or limit. I have never seen this card. The release of games. That there have been attempts that have massively failed on even the whisper or the thought of it, but it has never gotten out of pretty much the lower courts since since at least the Supreme Court said that video games are to be treated the same way as books and movies, and thus granted a freedom of expression. But yeah, after that Supreme Court decision, nothing else has gotten anywhere close to succeeding. Let's see. TechRaptor has the same article that we'll have to follow up on Wednesday. Riot Game employees walkout protest. Riot Games employee walkout protest against legal action block taking place today. That is a terrible battle. Let's see. Riot employees walking out today to protest legal action, the blocking of legal action or arbitration. I mean, there's so better ways to phrase phrase that. Of course, the problem with any kind of walkout or strike is you might be in the minority. Certainly, like it may be that you're the only one that walked out for real, and everybody else chickened out. But you know what? Frankly, if you have had it up to this point, and you're ready to walk out of a job, you should probably pack your stuff up and walk out of the job permanently, or plan to do that. Because you're at the end of your experience with the company at that point.
I will fight with honor.
Unless you can really form a union, unless you think you can really turn things around, which I find slightly questionable. There was a bit of a follow-up story. We talked about on Friday how the former employee of Gearbox, who was actually a very high-level employee of Gearbox, who voiced Claptrap, is not coming back to voice Claptrap. He says that Gearbox said they couldn't afford him because he has to be paid now that he's working for Rooster Teeth and not Gearbox. Randy Pitchford said they offered him double scale. What scale is on a video game? I'm not sure, but my best estimate is that it's about $35 an hour, $33 an hour. So $66 an hour for what would have been probably many hours of doing dialogue for Claptrap, unless he just does not play a big role in Borderlands 3. Would have been a big chunk of money, certainly. He probably would have been doing voice acting for at least a month. Randy Pitchford also said the employee that voiced the thing, because Randy Pitchford is still responding to people tweeting and asking questions and going on a rant after his, I believe it was 16-hour long rant with Game Informer accusing him of being a liar because he said something that was false. Although Game Informer didn't really accuse him of being a liar, he just took it that way. And I'm sure he's still trying to argue that cosmetic purchases and cosmetic DLCs don't qualify as microtransactions, whereas the rest of the world clearly knows they do. But yeah, Randy Pitchford said he was a disgruntled and bitter ex-employee, and I'm like, well, okay, let's say he is a disgruntled, bitter ex-employee. Do you know how employees get disgruntled and bitter? It's because they're treated badly by their employer. So it doesn't really help your case much to say, oh yeah, he's just a bitter ex-employee. Well, nobody gets bitter and disgruntled at a job because the job treated them well and everything was going great. You're bitter and disgruntled because the job treated you badly and exacted some sort of abuse upon you, whether it was forced overtime, overwork, or just dealing with Randy Pitchford, which I think in a nutshell is a form of abuse at this point in itself. Let's see. Days Gone is leading the top 10 chart for the UK charts in this quiet week of no real game releases. I think Days Gone might be doing slightly better in the UK than it is in the United States. It's probably a pretty good time to release Days Gone, because of the fact that the game isn't much of anything. That allows it to get some more sales in a slow week, when if it was actually competing with something else, it would have been asking a lot. Let's see. Moving on to the next story, we have a TechRaptor article, Magic the Gathering War of the Spark Mythic Edition disaster, canceling and refunding over 30,000 orders. Wizards of the Coast is almost certainly having a bad time right now. Recently, the release of a limited product known as Magic the Gathering War of the Spark Mythic Edition was announced, and it threw a lot of fans of the game into a tizzy, offering a whopping amount of mythic rare planeswalkers for the world's most popular card game, I suppose. This product was recently put up for sale on Hasbro's eBay store, where it quickly sold out in a matter of minutes. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the eBay store accurately reflected that and has left many players in uproar after their orders failed or went through successfully and were canceled after the fact. Okay, so this is a standard case of they oversold. So, all in all, over 42,000 units were sold on eBay, prompting the virtual marketplace to step in on Twitter and confirm that only 12,000 units were actually available. So 30,000 units are non-existent. Fans on Reddit expressed outrage as certain elements of the Magic the Gathering community known as flippers, those who are known for purchasing products because they will sell for a much higher value than the purchase price. Well, yeah, that's eBay in a nutshell. This isn't so much video game related, this is Magic the Gathering related, and it's kind of just another example of Magic the Gathering being bad about running their own business, and they seem to be getting worse and worse about it, quite frankly, which cast a lot of doubt about moving from Hearthstone to Magic the Gathering Arena, which really would be the only possible game I could switch over to, I think. And frankly, the community around Magic the Gathering does have a lot of, I hate to use the word toxic, but nerds, long-term established jerk players in Magic the Gathering, and so the digital version, I wouldn't be surprised if some of that bled through too, and it wasn't as fun of an experience. One thing Hearthstone does pretty well is they make it basically impossible to irritate the other player by very much, at least. You can spam the chat, but then you get silenced, and you can just take forever to play your turn, but then the rope will kick you. And that's pretty much all they can do to irritate you. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, World War Z review, Bring Out Your Dead. Yep. From what I've heard, this is a pretty good Left 4 Dead style game. It's probably not getting enough notice. Offline would be pretty much how I'd like to play the game, and then I probably wouldn't want to ever play it online. But you can see TechRaptor here gave it an 8.0 grade. The summary is a surprisingly deep and fun co-op shooter. World War Z proves that killing hordes of zombies is still fun years after the genre has hit its peak. Pros are excellent non-stop action, deep progression systems, purely fun gameplay. Cons are lack of content on launch, tacked on player versus player mode, and instability and server issues, which that seems like that's stuff that could just be fixed. This might be an instance today of, because I've tried to break up recordings between each of the 3 accounts, I haven't found a smooth point where I could have broken up these today's stream into 3 accounts because
Escape my
it was
fury.
very
I will
little
fight
time to
with
get all the
honor.
daily quests that needed to be done on the European account, and here it's taking a little bit longer. And it took a really long time to get all the Americas account stuff done. Next we have a game on Steam called Piku Space Dragon, which looks like it is a shooter game with your standard neon lights and nothing really interesting visually to me. It's discounted for $1.79 and 13 achievements, which makes it seem like it's an achievement game. Alright. Do I want to do this? Or just wait a turn? Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Gun Runner, which looks like it's just a high-speed platformer shooting fighting game, but very unappealing blocky graphics and tile set here. It's just ugly looking for $9.99. So yeah, that doesn't need to be. Let's see. This will do 1 damage.
This apple on your head.
This will do this. And this will do that. And the turn. Feel like I may have already mentioned this, but TechRaptor has an article. The Dark Souls board game maker Steamforged Games gets a £5 million investment. I don't know really how fun a Dark Souls board game would really be. So much of these board games that are based on miniatures, really, I think half the fun comes from owning the miniatures and playing with action figures than it does the actual game. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's the thing that seems appealing to me, not the games book or the real rule book or how the game would actually play. We've got a game on Steam called Dodge the Wall, which is another, I assume, VR hole in the wall clone. Being in VR, this might be better than the last one of these I've seen, but still not really a game worth playing. Early access and free to play. I guess the price is right then. Doesn't look like there's any in-app purchases or anything. So yeah, free and requires VR. I think I'll put this on the follow list just because it's free. That makes a little bit of sense to me.
For justice.
If I ever did get VR, I might try something out like that, but I probably wouldn't. TechRaptor has an article, The Eldritch Roguelike Lovecraft's Untold Stories. It comes to consoles on May 10th. I've not heard of this game, Lovecraft's Untold Stories, but apparently it is on Steam. So let's see what the Steam page has to say for it. It's rated very positively. I think this is a game I could have just easily dismissed as a, well, top-down twin-stick shooter. But it seems like it's more of an RPG. It's $11.24 discounted. I'll make sure this is on the follow list and see if I can make a better decision. Let's see. This.
I'll never tell.
I can't do that.
Can't do that one.
Follow the
That
rules.
one.
For
That
justice.
one.
Job done.
Inventory. TechRaptor has the same article. Riot Games will drop mandatory arbitration for new employees once the current lawsuits are settled. So, TechRaptor here has another bit of information here. It seems like we're just getting slow trickles of the truth. That yeah, they're not even going to drop the arbitration until all current lawsuits are settled, which could be years, because they don't want to get sued. And like, inherently, that's the right move for Riot. Even if they have done something wrong, they shouldn't just admit guilt and declare bankruptcy and never have any money or income to actually pay for those for their guilty actions. Because if
This guy's toast.
if these lawsuits go in the favor of the employees then would have to get paid back from, assumedly, some of the new sales of new games from Riot Games. If Riot Games gets a judgment of several $billion against it, it's just gonna go bankrupt and you'll never see a dime of it anyways.
Apple on your head.
I'll never tell.
Last warning.
There we go. Next we have a game on Steam here called Block-Bat Invasion, which is a low effort, not even widescreen or full screen game with a sprite that shoots bats. And the sprite of the bats, I don't believe they even flap their wings or anything. This is like, yeah, they're not flapping their wings, this guy's not moving, there's zero animation here. This is a extremely low effort Chinese game for 99 cents, which is actually quite expensive even on the low end scale. I think I've decided not to buy any of the Star Wars games. I think I'll have more than enough for next May the 4th, and I kind of don't like the feeling that I'm going to get potentially suckered into buying a couple of Star Wars games every year just because.
I live.
Do we want to kill this guy? TechRaptor has this article. This may be too late. EA unleashes the Force on Origin Access for Star Wars Day. They released a bunch of games that, for the most part, were already on Steam. So yeah, EA not really in a good position to try and promote Star Wars games, considering how much of a failure their current Battlefront game probably is. I mean, it is at this point. I don't think you can argue that it isn't.
The battle.
I've lost again. Next we have a game on Steam called Monster Crush C4 Edition, which looks like a low effort physics-based game where you're trying to destroy things. Yeah, it doesn't look very interesting. $4.99 discounted. And we only have a couple more things to talk about, so I think we'll just wrap up here. Even though I think I will probably have to play off screen. Yeah, I need to get one more victory in any class, and I'll probably have to go back and look at everything just to make sure I've done everything. TechRaptor has an article. Pokemon Go developer Niantic Labs shares Earth Day results. If that interests you, there's some numbers here, but doesn't really show much here. You can see very few people celebrating Earth Day in Russia, or Pokemon Go I think might be banned in Russia and China and a bunch of Middle Eastern countries and a bunch of African countries. If that's what this map is indicating at all. This is an article I'm going to just leave for you to seek out if you're interested. Let's see. Apparently Star Wars The Old Republic is still running in a premium or free-to-play, but you have service. You have to go to their website. It's not on Steam. They had a May the 4th special droid, and I believe a lot of these Star Wars things probably had tributes to Chewbacca, as the actor who played Chewbacca originally passed away maybe on the 5th. Let's see. We only have a couple other things if they want to load. Next, we have a game called Survive in a Little Bit, and this is yet another extremely low effort Chinese game. I can call it that immediately. 59 cents discounted, and of course it's Chinese. Probably from the same developer of the previous one. And then we have this game on Steam called Combate Monero, which is a combination of a bunch of weird looking characters in a fighting game. Now, in a fighting game, that's pretty much every fighting game ever, is a bunch of weird looking characters. So I wouldn't be terribly upset with trying this. It looks like it might be somewhat decent a fighting game. Unfortunately, English is not supported. It's $7.49, and it's a Spanish Latin America only title. Interesting. I don't know why you wouldn't go for English there. It's not too hard to translate Spanish into English. It's a lot harder to translate some of the other languages. TechRaptor has an article here. Forager update roadmap released by Hopfog. So it's a list of what they plan on updating on Forager, which is now available on Steam for $19.99. And you can see it's rated very positively. But frankly, from what I've seen of it and what I've seen the reviews of it, is that this game starts off kind of as a Minecraft game, and then it just turns into a clicker, and then it turns into something else, and it just keeps jumping genres that I think you'd run into a lot of genres you don't like. So I'd be a little wary of that. And that takes us to the Humble Bundle store, the Humble Monthly Bundle. Don't care about that. We have 17 hours for the More Board Games Bundle, which, yeah, trying to save up for a new video card, so I don't want to buy that. The Lego Games Bundle has 7 days left. I'd still recommend playing Lego games on the Switch at this point. And so if this bundle ends by Wednesday, we might have a secondary games bundle. But that's about that. Yeah, RetroPie listed an update, and they're having a list of, they're having a lot of trouble getting their servers to process the new versions of their software. As I'm scrolling down my Twitter feed, Yandere Simulator developer put out a update, and TechRaptor fell for that bait, and they have an article, so we'll look at that, I guess. But it is totally important to point out that Yandere Simulator is never going to be finished. Affiliates and partners can once again rerun highlights. We've heard your feedback, and we are very excited to restore this functionality. You can add highlights to your rerun queue in the video producer. Interesting. But I'm not an affiliate or partner, so I can't do any of that. And that's the problem with Twitch in a nutshell, is that every freaking ability that you'd want to learn and get good at and know how to really run your Twitch channel is locked behind being an affiliate and partner first. So you can't be a good Twitch streamer until you're already a good Twitch streamer. So here's TechRaptor's article, Yandere Simulator May 2019 progress. Looks like he's added some special characters that will be rivals, I believe is what they're called. The problem, in case you're not familiar with Yandere Simulator, is this guy, Yandere Dev. It was what he calls himself. He doesn't know how to program well at all. He doesn't know how to work with other people, and he doesn't know how to finish a project in the short. So what he's doing is he's dragging people along while he's getting support either through YouTube or Patreon or whatever, by telling stories and talking about his ideas and adding more features and adding more feature creep and adding more feature creep. In the meantime, at least one or two other people have completely made a game like Yandere Simulator and released it, because those people know how to A, not add feature creep, B, get the work done, actually know how to program. He's not capable of doing the things that would be necessary. Personally, he was working with a company and he couldn't get it done, so he ended working with that company. And they were going to give him programmers. They were going to give him all the help that he needed. But he's just not he's not capable of it. Which means also, sadly, he's probably not capable of doing a lot of projects, video game programming or otherwise, because he's too controlling, not able to delegate, and he's too fantastical in his thinking. And as far as his updates, they have gone up and down. He's made promises that it was coming out in 2018, I believe. He probably made promises that the entire game would be out in 2017. Last update I saw, he said, oh, actually, I've just been making a vertical slice of the game up until this point, and so it's nowhere close to being done. He's made suggestions to completely change the game, add new features. He's living in a fantasy, basically. And you just can't have somebody who is so much in their own world of thinking, in their own way of thinking. And I totally believe he thinks he can actually finish it. But trust me, as a person who's somewhat of an expert on not finishing projects, I know somebody who won't finish a project when I see it. So yeah, leave it at that. This is why I don't talk about Yandere Simulator much. Even if the game was finished tomorrow, it's too little too late at this point. Nobody would care. Nobody would be interested in it. Nobody would want to play it. There is a game that I wanted to put on my fall list that I saw just was trending. So let's look at that after this game. We also have a game on Steam, Mystery Solitaire the Black Raven. That's not a solitaire game. So there was this game called Little Misfortune that's not out yet. It's a demo. And frankly, it seems like it is just a choice A or choice B story, where you're guiding this girl towards her death with the narrator, and misfortune seems to like it's gonna follow her all around. And this is this weird little French girl that's that you're gonna guide around. Then there's this fox that also plays some role in this. He may be the secret narrator. So this is coming out in 2019, and the demos was trending on YouTube. I certainly could be a streamer like that and just play games that are trending, or play demos of games that aren't even out. I believe this is the developer who made this game, Fran Brow, which is overwhelmingly positive. So I would want to also make sure that I have this game. And this would be the right game, I guess, to play. A psychological horror point and click. Quite frankly, I could have used a game like this for the Halloween month. And let's see, do we have anything else? Any other games to talk about as we're wrapping up here? The game here called Sky Shepherd looks interesting. I'll put it on the follow list because it's visually attractive. Looks like it's a flying around as a bird game. It's free. Oh. Well, okay. There's a game called Sky Shepherd where you play as a bird and maybe shepherd some other animals around. This looks a lot like a game I played just a few months ago. But yeah, since it's free, you can check it out if you're interested. I don't need to put that on the follow list. And let's see. We have another Chinese game here, Tofu Pudding Simulator. It looks like a shop, restaurant simulator. English not supported, $1.59, Chinese only. This doesn't look terrible. It looks kind of like a mobile game, but certainly I've seen a lot worse. And while there was a slight increase in the quality of the last couple of games that just came out, we are mostly seeing some pretty bad games. And who's to say that I'm seeing all the games that are coming out on Steam? Maybe I'm missing some. I don't think so, though. Just think it's a slow week before E3. Anyways, that's going to be it for the stream and this recording. It's been a little rambly. It's been a tough one to get victories, and there hasn't been too much progress on playing ranked play. That's going to be it for the stream, though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.